It's now my pleasure to introduce Ike Alterman, who'll be reading extracts from his book, Rest Their Souls. Ike was born in May 1928 in Żarów, a small town in Poland, to a large, loving Jewish family. In 1942, he was sent to work in a brick factory, then to Treblinka concentration camp, and in 1944 to Auschwitz-Birkenau. In January 1945, he was sent on an horrific death march to Buchenwald, where he missed liberation by just one day. He was finally liberated outside Theresienstadt on the 8th of May 1945. Ike came to England in August 1945 with the help of the Jewish Refugees Committee and was one of the Windermere Boys. He then moved to Manchester and began a successful career in the jewellery trade. He lives with his partner Diane, close by to his two daughters, Elaine and Fionn, and grandchildren. Ike will begin today by reading an extract about his childhood, followed by his account of his arrival at Auschwitz and the final moments of liberation. He finishes by telling us how he was able to find closure on a visit he made to Poland just last month. Ladies and gentlemen, Ike.
I'll start off with selection. I remember that there weren't as many Jewish people left in the ghetto, and rumors started from little town to another on the grapevine that people were being sent away. Just before the Yom Tovim, we couldn't go to shul or anything like that. So we used to daven at home, or we had a few people from the neighborhood to daven quietly, because it was illegal. One day in 1942, they said that all Jewish people must congregate in the town square. You could only bring with you what you could carry in your hands. Everything else you had to leave behind. Can you imagine, before that, people knew but couldn't comprehend the things that were happening. We all congregated in that square, which was more or less 5 minutes walk from our house, through the back. My father tried to hide a few of our things like candlesticks and some suit length in the cellar or in the window ledge that was in the attic. We thought hopefully we would come back and we would pick up some of the things. We didn't know what was going to happen. People were hiding precious stones and were having stuff sewn into their clothing in case we were sent to a camp. Then maybe we would have a few dollars or something like that to buy a bit of bread. I remember leaving my house. My mother had sewn some of the gold dollars into part of my coat made from cloth purchased by my father. He knew a lot of people who used to deal with cloth because he was on the Judenrat committee. Pinchel Hoffman's wife used to run a shop with a nice showcase on the front that sold cloth for ladies' dresses. My father had a 3/4 length winter coat made with a fair collar, and he had a high polished boots for the winter. My little brother and I had the same coats, caps made to keep us warm. They were beige with brown lines, pinstripe on them. So we were all lined up in the square. standing there for hours and hours and nothing was happening. I can see the square. I can see the police station as you come out of and you turn left. If you went a bit further, you could either go to the market or go to our street. Each line was about 4 or 5 deep, and they came and they started counting the people. Then they came to us. I was standing behind my father, and I was told to stay on my tiptoes to make me look a bit taller than I was. So there was my dad, my mother, my sister, and my little brother. And they came and they counted just between my father and my mother. They stopped. Their hand gesture divided us. So my father and I were saved, and the rest were marched out through the square just facing the police station in the middle of the town, and they turned left. My little brother, with his hands above his head and rifles on them, never to be seen again after that. We didn't know what they were going to do with the people. Everyone was so confused and fearful. Whether they were shot or died of starvation, I don't know. But rumor had it that they were sent direct to Treblinka. I know what happened in Treblinka, just like Auschwitz and Birkenau. They kept so many to work, and the rest were herded right away to the crematorium. And that's the last I saw of them. That was just around Yom Kippur time, or soon after, in October 1942. They decided to send a few of the boys to just outside, death march and missed liberations. They decided to send a few of the boys to just outside the perimeter of Birkenau and Auschwitz, where the guards used to sleep and rest. There was a little farm, so I was sent there with some others. I didn't make many friends because we didn't know if we were going to be next. I was absolutely alone, trying to survive. We didn't know what tomorrow was going to be because every day they would call appels. We would line up and the guards would shout, you. In the block where we were, there was a civilian German man, a political prisoner, who was in charge of the barrack. One day he sent us out to go and pick sprouts from the field. The snow was deep, knee-high, and we didn't have any proper shoes or any warm clothing. Nothing, just what we could find, rags. All I had on my feet was straw wrapped around some rags, and we gathered those sprouts. That was the day before Christmas, 1944. I visually remember that this blockführer told us to sit on the bunks and start singing Silent Night. Those are the words I remember singing. Heilige Nacht, Ruhe Nacht, alles Ruhe, alles wach. And for this, we got a ladle of soup, which consisted of water and about 2 leaves of sprouts. From then on to this day, I have never touched sprouts because they always bring those bad memories back to me. And then one morning we were called outside for an appel. And everybody had to line up. I think it was the beginning of January 1945, because I remember the snow very deep. Unknown to us, the Russian army was approaching to liberate us. I was on the farm, but we joined with other people from Birkenau, and we were sent on the march to try and take us away from the front. And we started to march. There were thousands of men and women. In fact, we found out after the war that about 2 days later, they liberated Auschwitz. But we were on a march away from the. This was the first liberation I missed. We were marching and marching, and it was freezing. How long were we walking? Did anybody know? We didn't know what day it was. Every day we marched and marched. We didn't get any food or water. We were eating the snow, and you couldn't stop, because if you went out of line, you got a bullet in your head. We ended up in Buchenwald. On the 23rd of January 1945, there was a crematorium there as well, and the same thing, this thing happened. I just missed being liberated by a matter of hours. I have no idea how long I was there. I can't recall. Because one day was the same as the next day. We were in fear all the time of being harassed or sent to crematorium. And then one day we saw planes in the sky and the vapor trails. As young boys, we couldn't tell one plane from the other, but rumor had it these were American planes. We thought, oh, please God, they should bomb the place. We didn't mind dying. We didn't mind dying at all. We wanted to die. What had been happening was that as the different Allied armies were approaching, they were hammering the railway lines between Auschwitz-Birkenau and Theresienstadt, knocking out the railway lines out of action. So we were taken away from Buchenwald, according to records, on the 10th of April 1945, one day before Buchenwald's liberation. The world today, the atrocities that were committed during the Holocaust are unbelievable. The fact that the Nazis managed to persuade all those people to go along with them in a society like Germany was before the war, that was then, yet it's still happening in this day and age. People are being persecuted, so they have not learned. There are also people who deny things that happen. Deny. Can you imagine how we, the survivors, feel about that? Finding closure at Treblinka. The image I have always carried with me is of my mother, my sister, and my little brother, leaving the square in Auschwitz at the gunpoint by German soldiers and being transported to Treblinka. For many years I had wanted to come to Treblinka to say Kaddish for them. Last month, at the age of 94, I made that journey with my partner Diane, my daughter Fionn, and granddaughter Danny. Plus, some wonderful friends came with us to Treblinka. Site is a massive place, and we had to walk all the time from one place to other on a very hot day, and the place is covered with stones. Hundreds of thousands of stones. One each town and from villages the people were taken from and sent to Treblinka. As I stood at the memorial stones for my hometown of Ostrovets and Ožarov, I could see my family's faces. I felt I was with them. It was a wonderful feeling, just releasing the tension. It was as if we were together. As I said Kaddish at the place where they were buried, where 900,000 other Jews were murdered by Nazis, I felt a huge sense of closure. I pray their souls are now truly resting at peace. I've always believed my mother is my guiding angel. I've learned something from everything I have been through. I always wanted my children to have a better life than me. Unfortunately, I can't erase the bad memories. They will always be with me until the day I die. I've had some good things happen, so I try to balance it out as best as I can. I've learned to love and appreciate what I have. I have 2 wonderful daughters and 2 grandchildren. I was happily married to Myra, my late wife, for over 30 years. And I bless the day, 6 years after she passed away, that I met my partner, Diane, who I've been with for 24 years. Thank you very much.